Yeah.
It's my turn. Greetings,
Greetings.
Metax. Hi. Mm. And my cat's been giving me lots of love since it was pretty much almost my turn, coming over and rubbing on me and getting hair everywhere. Uh, It's wonderful.
Yes.
He's sending me love. He does. He likes his love. Me
So
too.
do I.
And then, and there's times where I'm doing things and he's staring at me and he's meowing and I'm like, and then it's funny. I see what position I'm in when I'm like, I am not ready yet. I got to do stuff. And then I kind of realized that I was, sometimes it's more like a self-love, just if I can go with it. But I mean, sometimes it's okay for me to be frustrated. That's fine too. But I'm realizing more that he's helping me to self-love. I suppose that would be a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, now he went off smelling something. That's pretty funny. Um, I how are you working with equines, the horses, and do a lot of felines work with them, have connections with them, and a good relation?
I'll consider a positive connection here as being bar, if you wish. It's a term from their language, as David has been guided to use in your world, since some of the information that was to a great degree beneficial for him to have a greater trust in the connection with our kind came from an incarnated person in your world of what you would consider equine nature in our lifetimes. We have a more distant relationship compared to, for example, lupines and others that are perhaps more similar nature. However, our connection has been very positive. It's mostly, if you will, a parallel or past, whatever you want to call it, incarnation of David. Might also be more aware of there as Rax, who had somewhat of a seating on a military council. There might be some things that he's okay with being shared and others not, but the idea being that this is also how there was a connection made with certain defectors of an enemy army or reptilian nature, which you are now aware of as Galask. There was a certain agreement made after a lot of war and fighting that both our kind as well equines set with reptiles, and then there was this group where there was an agreement struck after we reached somewhat of an armistice or something similar, in which then members of different species that came together at a certain military meeting or council that cooperated on perhaps a elite fighting unit or something similar, where there was indeed also beings of an equine nature, including one or the other that I have had a personal interaction with myself. But some of it is even easier to relate to David himself, or rather Rax, if you will. It depends on how far he is willing to identify with this incarnation, where he had more of a direct pawn approach, if you will, direct interaction with beings of an equine incarnation. There are different ones. Some of you might consider perhaps Pegasus or other beings that are not exactly what you might consider a bipedal spacefaring civilization, that are more etheric, but some of them are indeed quite physical in the higher dimensionalities, quite tall beings similar to our height, some even taller, but somewhat more slender, good fighters, fairly loyal. Overall, a positive connection, but perhaps not as close as some others over here. That's the best way I can term it.
Wow, that was really thanks for that was that was pretty cool hearing about that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Their
so
name is Raptor.
rapper,
Hmm.
nice. I When I was little, I I guess I used to go crazy for horses. And then for a long time I wanted to be a horse. I used to act like a horse. I used to have people ride on my back and do all kinds of stuff for a long time. And then I've also had my conflict with horses. Um, Not that it was like their fault, but I've gotten kicked in the head, and that was my fault. Well, it's always my fault. But and all kind of different things have happened. And then when I was a teenager, around 15 or 16, I let that go because I was interested in other things. So now I'm back with them again, and I didn't even know I was going to be able to be around so many. Uh, I've been using them to help with myself to because they're such large beings, and certain confrontations I've had with them, they've been helping me with feeling good in my body while being around them, and doing um, many different things besides cleaning up all their poop and stuff. So I've been having a good time finding out about myself and how I feel. So, yeah, I'm not sure why I
Mhm.
went into that. So, like, I
Yes.
guess I would say I have an incarnation
Hmm. In their
in
species.
the yes, in the equine.
Yes. I can't tell exactly if you're related to a raptor or any other of such nature, but definitely a higher evolved, if you will, or more intelligent equine version. Also, I would not recommend you to define things as being your fault or anybody's fault. That is implied some form of judgment, just being responsible, because it puts you more in a position of power than victimhood from your linguistics. That's just a side note.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
I was trying to control him to get him to do something, and he didn't want to because he knew he was going to run me over if I did. I was only 10, but I kept on pulling, and so
Mhm.
so that's why. but but yeah. Well, that's. I mean, with how I felt about him before, kind of like more like my first love. Uh, so yeah. Um, and so yes. So now I'm getting back with them again, in touch with
Mhm.
myself. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there are perhaps numerous individuals in your world that are becoming more aware of connections, also due to a special situation you have decided to collectively create in your world. However, it's more likely that the next of what you consider in the upcoming years is going to be more common for people getting those memories that you will likely perceive as past life from your current understanding. So it might become more common in your population, or at least the willingness to accept something like this is real, and overall the psychic paranormal phenomena, if you will, especially your other lifetime incarnations and the existence of what you consider perhaps non-human entities in the other worlds becoming more acceptable, not necessarily with definite proof being shown to you by a scientific researcher, but overall a general willingness in the population to accept such possibilities due to your own development stage currently through a lot of upheaval, however.
Yes. I know with myself, I've had to go through a part where I'm not making other people more like gods, and or worshiping them, or thinking they have a uh, better, are able to do things better than I am. I'm realizing that I'm that
Mm-hmm.
powerful too. That I'm doing what I'm doing. and that I can have a connection with them more on that kind of basis.
Yes, if you love yourself, if you project a certain idea out about yourself, that's what other people have to pick up on. There's no other way around it. So be it positive or negative, whatever it is that you're pulsing out about the idea you have about yourself, any entity in your vicinity, physical or non-physical, of any species or race or any identity, will automatically respond to what you're pulsing out and feed back to you what you're thinking or having as an idea of your own identity.
Yeah.
And when you're mentioning being better or worse at something, well, there's one way to look at things is you have your own judgment. There's nothing wrong with having some of an idea of discriminating between what you prefer or what you don't prefer. It's just more recommendable if you use your own interpretation of what you want to create, what you desire, rather than using someone else's approach of what's more beneficial or less. If you operate under the idea of should or ideal comparison to what you're capable of, it's like you're operating under somebody else's pretext, which is not as helpful as when you're defining to yourself what you wish and what is better or worse in your own definition. In other words, overcome any struggles that you might have to improve upon yourself is something I recommend on your own. In other words, beat your own high score.
High school. I have dreams about being in school again, and I keep on wondering why they keep on accepting me. Like I'm almost 50, and I'm still. They still want. I can still go to high school, and I'm like, but then I'm like, I don't even have to go anymore, or to this one, and then I find myself trying to, get leaving, and then I can't find my vehicle or whatever. But yeah, and then actually last night I had a dream that I was there was a test in school, but I had no way to get there, and I didn't even know I was going to be late, and it was I always feel horrible about not being able to make it. Anyways, it happens to me a lot in my astral dreaming time. So yeah, I must be going to school or something. Am I schooling myself up there in there?
You're always schooling yourself. The reason you decide to also have this particular representation of it is likely also because you're still putting some form of pressure on you, where you're afraid to fail in somebody else's eyes, especially as a testing idea.
Mm,
However, ultimately, it's always only yourself that you have to send in front, which is why I use the metaphor.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So one last question. You is when you can is helping someone else transition on from this life. That's okay. I mean that to others, and I mean, yeah, helping them.
Depends.
Okay, if you could uh, talk about that for a minute, that'd be great.
Oh, okay is a very general term.
I
Nothing
know it
can
is.
ever happen unless it's on some level okay. Nothing ever happens for no reason. So transitioning somewhere, of course, you could just load a shotgun and shoot a random person in the head and then be considered murder. However, on a higher level, the person already decided that they was gonna die and they were willing and they were in an energetic state ready for the experience. Nothing ever happens accidentally, even if you like to find things such as this is a tragedy or a horrible incident. And of course, somebody deliberately wants to transition and verbally states so. It's a much different situation, but ultimately, on a higher level, it's both the same. Of course, you also are responsible for your action and the person responsible for their willingness to leave. It's always a co creation. So ultimately, everybody decides when they want to go anyway, at all times, and you cannot force anybody outside of their body unless they have given prior consent on some level. So okay is being a general term, everything is okay in a level. if you should do it or if it's necessary to do it, etc. Just go with whatever seems right in the situation and what energy the person is passing out. Again, you're responsible for your own decision and action, and so is the other person. It's definitely, in the broader sense of the word, okay, but that can mean a lot of things.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think
Yes.
I believe I understand what you're saying, and I think I do too. I just wanted to know more on your perspective on that. And my time is up with you. So I love you, and I'm very glad that I was here and with you, and well, through David, but I'm with you other times, so it's fine.
Much love for you as well.
Okay.
And
Till
remember,
next.
there is no death of the soul or anything like it, only the physical body.
Okay. Much love, and talk to you soon.
Until our next direction, wherever it will be. Goodbye for now.
Okay.